Hi, I'm Caitlin Classing, and this is the 4th training vlog for Etc., aka Pops. This month we're going to talk a little bit about increasing our expectations for him, both on the flat and over fences. So when we back the young horses, the first thing we teach them is to go forward from the leg and to stop from the hand, in that order. Forward first, stop second. And then as we continue on, we want to start to combine those aids to create a line of communication for the horse. And so the first thing we want to do is to create enough pushing power to have even rhythm in each gait and suppleness through his body. So you can see here, I'm starting a flat session for Pops. He's already had his hack, and we've started our little warm-up. And you can see right away he breaks into canter when I increase pressure from my leg and ask him to start pushing evenly out to put weight in my hand. So rather than wanting to pull back and pull him back to trot, I just keep closing my leg because we want to start to think about connecting the horse from back to front. So here as we continue on, you can see we want him to go out and reach into the connection and reach for the bridle. So you can see he kind of comes a little above the bit, a little behind the bit. I do my best to keep my hands steady and keep closing my leg and creating more push from behind until he starts to put even weight into both reins. And in general, as a type, Pop is a horse that has a good walk, a fantastic canter, and sort of an average trot. That's the kind of horse that we like to have, but it does mean that here, as we start to put a little bit more pressure on his trot work, he finds it easier just to break into canter. So you can see again, he says, well, are you going to stop kicking me if I just break to canter? I said, no, here's the rule. I'm going to keep my leg on until you start to reach. And now we can see as the work progresses, he's starting to connect from his tail out to his ears, reaching for the bit and putting weight out at the end of the reins. So I'm starting to get a little bit happier now with the quality of the work. But you can see, even here in this longer frame, he still comes a little unsteady in the contact. And it's my job to keep correcting that by encouraging him to fill up the reins with his hind leg, pushing out to the bit. And you can see again here we change direction, so we want the steps to stay even behind so that the rhythm of the trot stays the same. Good, and now as we continue on in the work, I'm getting happier with how he's going, happier that he's creating enough push that there's an even rhythm to the trot, suppleness through his body, and he's actually starting to take my hand forward. Because we want to think of the energy like a circle from his hind end across his back out to his top line into the bit. And this is actually a jog day that I wanted to have videoed. Normally we would jog out in the fields, but I didn't want to have our working students hike out after me. But you can see here, we're not doing a proper flat work session, but he's in quite a long frame, still focusing on having even rhythm in the trot and reaching out for the bit. So even on a jog day, we want to focus on just the really basic fundamentals of his training. So here he looks more like a show hunter than a event horse or some weird combination because he probably doesn't move well enough to be a show hunter. But this is more the idea of where his flat work's out right now. So we're not thinking about taking him into a dressage ring. Hopefully the goal is to lay a foundation that we can build on. That's the idea. So now we're going to talk a little bit more about the jumping work that we do with him. So we actually, the best way to get a horse jumping better, more rideable in the jumping, is to create a better canter. So we do a lot of work with poles on the ground rather than fences with height. Because we like to see, okay, well, can we place the horse? Do we have them connected between our leg and our hand well enough that we can place the horse in between these two poles? And then it's the same idea. We expect him to hold an even rhythm in between the two poles, consistent length of stride. And here we have a little gymnastic exercise that just works on strengthening his hind end, and it's the same idea. Can we keep him connected on an even length of stride in between the one stride on a half circle? And then I think from here, I'm just showing a little bit more in the canter that I'll get now off of his back and do the same thing that we did sort of in the trot. Let the frame get a little bit longer and allow him to reach forward for the bit. And we do work with the young horses changes into their routine so that as we continue and progress along, it never becomes a big deal. So he does a little change each way. Once they have a balanced active canter, it should really be just as simple as having a horse that's correct on the aids. So when you start to move him off of the new inside leg, he picks up the new inside hind, steps over, and does a change. And ideally, as he gets older, it's not going to be a big deal. So that's sort of how we start to think about increasing our expectations in the jumping, is that the canter has to get more rideable. And you can see here, this isn't the first jump. We've gone on and done a little grid work. We're going to start with a little trot grid. He's quite a long, disorganized horse, so this isn't beautiful, but he needs to work on that. And then we carry on with a little bit of a jump course. So this is early in the week, and you'll see later on we do the same course again, but you can see as we come around the turn, we're just kind of taking the first distance that comes up, allowing him to keep going forward. It's the same idea as the flat work. We always want to encourage the young horse to go forward, whether it's to the jump or out to the bit, and then here again we encourage him to go forward first, and then as he progresses in his training, we can start to add a little bit more balance and collection. So this is the following week. We hadn't gotten around to changing the jump course yet, but it's actually really good with the young horses to sometimes go back and repeat the same course, same exercise. And you'll actually see here in the background, we do like to do a fair bit of teaching off of the young horses, but here I'm actually teaching and jumping in with the student. So he's stood around like he would at a horse show, and then I've picked him up and expected him to now go back to work, which is always a challenge for the babies, but they do learn a good work ethic, and it's not a shock to them the first time they have to stand at the in gate. So now you can see I felt like I was a little backwards in that turn, but the canter's getting, even just in a week, we've done some of the pull work, canter's getting a little bit more organized, and I'm not feeling like I have to keep encouraging the step longer to keep him in front of my leg. But then here, as I open him up to make the distance up for this one stride, he stays balanced. Good. So overall, I've been really happy with how he's going, and we'll look forward to updating you the next time.